And the reason why the US is trying to intervene is because of it's the only country that's willing to stand up to Israel. Yeah? Yeah? They had a 12-day war with Israel. You saw that?
Yeah, I saw that.
So to see, because of the genocide in Palestine, that some of the sectarianism was disappearing and people were supporting Iran because Iran was the only country big enough, strong enough to confront Israel. And that's why they're trying to take them out.
What do you think about Ayatollah? What's it?
Khamenei.
Yeah, Khameini.
Khamenei. They've got a specific governance fitted to their environment. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think something that we fail to understand is not every country is the same. Not every country has the same history. Not every country has the same religious, social, cultural dimension. So you can't govern every country the same. Yeah. Khamenei, the supreme leader now replaced Khameini. Yeah. Who was Khameini? Khameini was a religious figure, one of the most revered figures in Shia Islam alive at the time. He's obviously passed away now. Who was exiled by the Shah. Yeah. The Shah was the US-backed, Western-backed monarchy of Iran. Yeah. That ruled the country in such a militant way. He was educated in Paris and liked the finer things and thought religion was backwards. Yeah. But in a country where most people are religious. Yeah. So he exiled all of these Ayatollahs and mullahs and imams, including Khameini. Yeah. And he made observing your religion, wearing, religious attire illegal in public spaces. Okay. Yeah. So they had an Islamic revolution in 1979. And after the Islamic revolution, at the time of the revolution, it encompassed all these other groups, communists, etc. Then they had a referendum soon after the revolution saying that we'll turn this into an Islamic republic. Yes, so that's why it's called the Islamic Republic of Iran. Yeah. So when people say we want women of Iran to be wearing miniskirts, they're basically saying they want it to go back to the time of the Shah.
Okay.
Yeah. In my opinion, people should be free to wear whatever they want.
Of course.
Yeah. You shouldn't impose people to wear Islamic, and you shouldn't tell people they shouldn't. That's just my personal opinion. Yeah, that's what I believe in Sudan. That's what I believe anywhere else. But I'm not Iranian, and therefore it's not my right or duty to tell them how to govern their country. What I do know is this is a revolutionary country that supported revolutionary causes around the world. Yeah. So when Venezuela was sanctioned, Iran gave them oil. Yeah.
Okay.
Not because Venezuela doesn't have oil, but because of the sanctions, they couldn't refine their own oil in their country.
Yes.
Yeah. Iran has been under sanctions for a much longer time, so they've got a resistance economy. Yeah. They still suffer from sanctions, but they've figured out ways to refine oil despite having missing parts. Yeah.
And of course, Iran helped Palestine.
Exactly. Yeah. Iran helps Palestine. Iran has consistently supported revolutionary causes around the world. And the reason why the US is trying to intervene is because of it's the only country that's willing to stand up to Israel. Yeah? Yeah? They had a 12-day war with Israel. You saw that?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so everyone knows the Muslim world knows it's very sectarian. Sunni, Shia, Sunni. During the 12-day war, sectarianism was over during that period. The whole Muslim world
was together
supporting Iran.
Wow.
Yeah? Which is again something that they worry about because they do this divide and rule. Yeah. To split communities, to split African communities, to split Nigeria, to split Sudan, to split the so-called Middle East, West Asia, all of these things. So to see, because of the genocide in Palestine, that some of the sectarianism was disappearing and people were supporting Iran because Iran was the only country big enough, strong enough to confront Israel. And that's why they're trying to take them out. They say it because Iran killed protesters. US just killed a protester. ICE just shot a US citizen in the head.
I saw that.
At point blank range.
Last week. Crazy.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Yeah, there's school shootings. There's all sorts that happens in that country.
Mass shootings.
mass
more-
shootings. We had the Black Lives Matter movement because black people were being extrajudicially killed. So it's a nonsense. Iran sits on oil. Iran is aligned with Russia. Iran supports revolutionary movements. That's the reason. Yeah? There's protest movements that happen all over. There's a Gen Z protest movement that happened in Kenya. Yeah? How many people were killed in the Gen Z protest?
Hundreds.
How many times did we see Kenyans on camera get kidnapped by people not in uniform?
They're still being kidnapped.
Yeah, not in uniform. No right to remain silent. No identifying self. It's a nonsense. So I tweeted this. Since its history, since the inception of the United States, it's never supported a revolution anywhere in the world. In fact, how you know it's not a revolution is if the US supports it. And that's facts. That's facts. Yeah? Because a true revolution is going to deal with the domestic question and the international question. So a true revolution happened in Kenya. What would you expect? You'd want the corrupt leadership to be gone. You'd want to lower the MP salaries. You want to see more representation in the governing of people's local lives. That would be the domestic, yeah. You can add some things, but from my opinion, that would be domestic. Internationally, what would you want? You'd like to see us get a fair price for the tea that we export, a fair price for the flour that we export.
Coffee.
We'd want to renegotiate all these loans, yeah. We'd want to take the Sankara approach when it comes to debt and say these debts were inherited from colonialism, we're not paying. All these things would put us at loggerheads with imperialism, yeah? So imperialism would never support a real revolutionary process in Kenya, yeah? Because it affects their interests, yeah? We would probably want to close down the US military bases, the British military bases.
We wouldn't deal with the IMF anymore.
Exactly, yeah? So, of course, if you, a revolutionary, would take to power, you're not gonna, if you say to the US, this is my program, they're not gonna support you.
Of course, they won't.
So the fact that the US is supporting, and we see Trump tweeting in support of the Iranian protest, tells us this is not a revolutionary movement. So that's what we saw. That's why we're seeing protests in Iran right now. Yeah? Because what happened is Trump in his first term pulled the US out of the JCPOA agreement, yeah, which was basically don't enrich yourself in the material that could develop into nuclear weapons. And if you do that, we will lift all sanctions. So that was the US plus the big economic powers, Germany, UK, France, yeah? Then Trump came into power, which is completely illegal. If you have a bilateral agreement with another state, an election shouldn't change that bilateral agreement, yeah? So the agreement was made during Obama's term. Trump comes into power and takes them out, yeah? Even though Iran had been keeping to their fulfillment of the policy. Yeah. So the US unilaterally takes itself out because it's Trump. Then Joe Biden gets elected and doesn't put them back in. Yeah. Then the Iranians are like, on your side, the US has pulled out. The UK, France, Germany, etc. have done nothing to reprimand the US for pulling out and have done nothing to alleviate the sanctions. So then recently, Iran is like, we're pulling out of the whole agreement. Yeah. So because they pulled out, now the other countries it's now full-scale sanctions. So because of full-scale sanctions, situation has become economically harder in Iran and people have been protesting. Anyway, back to Venezuela.
But before that, what's the name of that plan exactly?
JCPOA.
JCPOA.
The Joint Comprehensive, I forget what POA part stands for.
That's why the currency is struggling. That's why inflation is up.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's where no country is an island. Yeah. All countries
Are intertwined.
Are intertwined. You have to trade. You get your rice from here. You get your so-and-so from here. And the problem with Venezuela is because it has the largest oil reserve, economically speaking, it wasn't very diverse. Yeah. So imagine your country is built. It's kind of like an oil refinery and a country. Not a country with an oil refinery. So what they've tried to do is diversify the economy, but that takes decades, yeah? So if you can't sell your oil to the rest of the world, situation becomes very hard. So you might have abundance in certain things, but lack certain things.